Lwando and morning Mtlatu. Um, Thanks for joining early on a Friday morning. I know that is most challenging, especially at the end of a very, very demanding year, which seems to just never end. Well, the end is in sight. Today is the last day of lectures, and that in itself, having reached this point, is an achievement which you can be proud of. Thanks very much, Lwando. I said yesterday, I think, I don't think you um, attended the second session yesterday, but I expressed to all the students my gratitude for them being so diligent despite all the challenges. We're not always aware of everybody's um, individual situations and challenges. Um, Obviously, some of you, I'm aware of what your challenges are, and that's why I wanted to compliment everybody yesterday. And I'm going to extend it today to you as well, because you were not in yesterday afternoon session. Flatcho has heard that, but I was very, very um, I was very um, honest with everybody yesterday when I said that I truly appreciate this, because like you must feel, yes, I'm looking at a screen, I'm listening to a voice for the entire semester, or voices from different lecturers. Um, it's it's not first prize. First prize is being in front of for me, being in front of a classroom and engaging with students. And I think for you similarly, because it is challenging for me to just looking at a screen and sometimes just doing a pre-recording because there's nobody in the session. But I think we've all done well. But without students, it would not have been possible. So I thank you for that. I thought it is something that you need to know, because we sometimes don't tell you often enough how much we appreciate it, and actually how much we miss students. So it'll be amazing if we can actually get back to campus and get the energy of engaging with each other personally in a campus environment, and meeting your friends and sharing with your friends and sharing ideas and laughing together. And it's just it's an experience that obviously, because of circumstances, we will not privileged to have this year, but it's something that we can hopefully have in future. Having said that, I think right. My apologies for repeating myself, but I think it's just because I think it is something important that I wanted to make sure that everybody heard. And since you've heard it twice, it makes it hopefully even more. But the chapters that we will be looking at today over the two sessions, and I thought it was I would like to start with that introduction today, because excuse me, the chapters that we are going to, or the chapter that we're going to start with today, chapter 13, especially deals with services and and selling services as to selling products, and the challenges that come with that. And most of the challenges is because of the human interaction, which makes or breaks the service. The different characteristics are, that distinguish services from products. We are going to be looking at in this chapter. Let me just get to that particular slide. Those are the highlights that we want to address in this chapter. The first being the fact that a product is something that we can touch. It's something tangible. We can use all our senses. We can smell it. We can taste it. We can feel it. We can hear sometimes if it's that sound of a V8 vehicle. It's something unique. Not that I'm ever think going to be in a market to afford a vehicle like that. Or maybe if I am, then I won't be able to afford the petrol to make it go. But yes, a tangible product. We can rely on a customer experiencing the product through the activation of a combination of all their senses. Where service is totally different. You cannot, there's no, there are hybrid products or services that have that is a service that's offered, but also part of it for it to actually work, it requires a product. Um, but usually services is an action that is performed in exchange for the recipient of the service, who then pay the service provider. Um, the quality of the service varies from one event to another, usually because of the human element. Um, when we market, and you can remember from the first semester, this is not relevant for this particular module, but from the first semester when we did marketing, um, you can hopefully still remember that we added 3 extra P's: people, processes, and physical evidence, to the marketing mix, to the original 4: product, price, promotion, and place. So the marketing mix for services have those extra 3 P's. And I think the most important one there is the people one. People that represent you, the salesperson selling the product, or in this case, selling the service, sorry, and the person receiving it. They both have to be present, for instance, as one of the characteristics of a service, for the service to be performed. But let's progress through this chapter, like I've like I've set it out. This particular slide, as well as I'm going to advance 2 more slides. Both these images that you see, the one that you currently have on the screen, that flat line with services on the right-hand side and products on the left-hand side, as well as the image we have on the screen now, which is basically products top left. And then you'll see that there is a clockwise movement of the arrows to get to your services. It's exactly the same. It's different illustrations for exactly the same thing. Okay. Basically, what it means is the following. It means that on this continuum, you have on your right-hand side, you will have products that are pure products. They can't be anything else. Salt, soap, they can't be anything else but what they are, right? On the on the left-hand side, I'm looking at the screen. Like on the left-hand side, you'll find that you've got your pure products. On your right-hand side, you'll have your pure services. There can't be anything else but a service. Teaching is a service. A doctor, a dentist is a service. It can't be anything else. And all the elements that form part of it need to be there for it to be able to be a service. In the middle, we have our hybrids, like restaurants, for instance, takeaways, establishments, fast food establishments, because they offer a service, the service of you not having to worry to prepare the food and clean up afterwards, even buy the ingredients for it. In exchange for that, and if it's a fast food, it's quick, it's drive-through, and you pay for that in return. You pay for the convenience, but they must have products for you to buy. They will not be able to offer that service if they do not have a product that they can sell. Okay, so that restaurant must obviously still have some items like the food and the drinks that you're going to buy from them for your own convenience. That's why they're called hybrids. And then we find, for instance, in between our products and our hybrids, second from the top, we have service-intensive products. Now, the service of a real estate consultant, for instance, if I can use the example that we had in our assignment with Remax, they provide you a service. They need, however, the property to be sold. the property to be available to be sold. Everything to obtain that property, to buy that property, comes through the supply of a number of services. You take ownership eventually of the product that they sell you as a result of the service that they offer. There are the odd occasion where buyers and sellers deal with each other directly. They want to save the commission. Maybe it's a family situation where the family members sell the house to another family member as a part of an internal agreement. That's something totally different. On the contrary, second from the bottom, your service-intensive services is our airlines and our transporting service like buses and trains, stuff like. You buy a ticket to use that service for a specific period of time. You never take ownership of that airline, of that plane, of that seat on the plane, like you would do with your service-intensive products, like a house, for instance. My apologies. My cough is obviously always a bit more challenging early in the morning. Sorry. I just took a sip of my ginger and honey tea that will hopefully soothe my throat and remove this horrible cough and this irritating cough from your ears. Are we all good at this stage, Lwando? Explanation sufficient? Flatsu? All good? Clear understanding difference between a product and a service? The reason why it's very important for us to distinguish clearly between it is because when you get to the relevance in this chapter, thanks, Luanda, is you need to know the challenges that come with selling a service, because you cannot give somebody, you don't have the luxury of the product that you can say, you know what, if you're not 100% sure, here's the product, touch it, feel it. Can't do that with a service. And that's why the selling services are slightly more challenging. Right. We have seen the next slide. It's just the slide with examples. And I've tried to use the similar examples than the previous illustration, just to show you that it's a different version of the same illustration, but it is exactly the same. Right. Now, how services are performed, and that can happen in 3 different ways. Firstly, the customer can go to the service provider. That's where you go to the doctor. That's where you go to the dentist. That's where you go to the hairdresser. That's a service that they provide, but you, the customer, go to wherever they offer that service. Then, on the other hand, service providers can also come to the customer. For instance, a garden service. You can't take your garden to a garden services and then say, service my garden, and put it in the back of your car and then take it back home. No, they have to come to you to perform that service. Another service like that is for instance, when large factories have equipment and machinery that has to be serviced by a technician. You can't pick up that massive generator, put it in the back of the truck. It takes you 5 days to get to the technician. No, the technician would much rather come to you on your premises where the machine is and fix it. Okay, providing that particular service. And then also, in some cases, it is done where there's no contact between the customer, physical contact between the customer and the service provider. That is where you do a lot of things. On email, for instance, a service is provided by Takealot. They will do an Uber. They will deliver to your door. You use their service for the convenience because you can order after hours. They can deliver at any time that's convenient to you. But you never leave your your place where you do your business from, or if it's from home or wherever. Okay, so there's no interaction, direct interaction between the service provider and the customer. We can also have services offered at a single location or at multiple sites, depending on obviously the size of the business. Very often, a specific service like a dentist or a doctor, they might represent a chain of dentists, like can't recall at the moment. I haven't been to the dentist for a couple of months now. Dental Wise is a national dentist group. They have a visible footprint throughout South Africa, but they have different dentists working for them at the different locations. So they have multiple sites, but the actual individual performing the service to you is at a specific site, at a single site. And then you have a hairdresser, for instance. They only have maybe one. They have only one premises where they operate from, in a particular mall or in a particular residential area, and they are not duplicated elsewhere. For instance, if we remain in South Africa, in our country. Some of the aspects that we quickly can just touch on again is the characteristics of a service. We've touched on the intangibility. Services are intangible. You cannot touch it, you cannot feel it, you cannot smell it. Whereas with products you can. The heterogeneity, inseparability, and the perishability. Heterogeneity refers to the fact that the quality of the service is not exactly the same every single event. The service and the customer and the service provider might remain the same, but the actual experience can be different. And that is because of the human element. You're not in the best mood today, or you don't feel great today. So the service that you offer is not as good as when you offered it last week, for instance, but you're still offering that service. And you will offer a better service again in future. It's just circumstantial. Then you've got the inseparability. The service cannot be performed if both the service provider and the customer is not present. A doctor cannot perform a checkup on somebody if the person is not there. I've used that example before. I can't send you to the hairdresser if I want my hair cut. Okay, that person is only going to cut the hair of the person who's there. Okay, and that person's hair might be cut, but then yours is still not cut. The fact of the matter is that the customer as well as the service provider must both be present for the service to be completed. Right. Similarly with you booking a flight on an airplane, it's quite simple. I mean, you can't send somebody else to sit in your seat, because they're going to stop you when you check in and say, "Listen, this is not you, sir. I'm sorry. The ticket is not transferable." Perishability. Perishability is also a characteristic that refers to specifically the fact that a product, any product for that matter, we buy a liter of milk, we can put it in the fridge, we can use it until it's finished, and we then buy another one. Or we can buy long life milk and we put it in the cupboard and we use it whenever we want to. It's got an expiry date on it, but I don't have to use it on this particular day, although there is an expiry date. Then with services, it's however totally different. I cannot stock up on my services. I can't buy 5 plane tickets and use them whenever I want. They are set on certain dates and certain times, for instance. I cannot make an appointment with a doctor and then say, "Doctor, I feel better today. I'm not going to come in for the session, but I'll take it as a credit. So next time," no, you can't stock it up. You've got to make a new appointment the next time that you don't feel well. Okay. Hopefully my examples have been clear enough for you. Now, when you are selling services, let's look at a few things that can help you to do it better. Use anything that you can in addition to the service that will help create the vibe that let's say, for instance, you're selling um, the service that's offered by a guest house, for instance. For you to persuade a customer to book at your venue, use anything that you can, brochures, visual 360 tours that people could, anything that will try and create the atmosphere that they will experience when they're at the venue. Because you can't sample the product, you can't demo the product, you can't say, you know what, come stay here for a weekend, and if you like it, pay. If you don't like it, you don't have to pay. It's not going to work. Businesses will be out of business if that is the case. Try and give, if it's possible, because not all services is necessarily it's possible to take that approach, but you can give demos sometimes. I know that some services, for instance, will, I told my personal trainers when I was training them, offer your service for free. Tell the customer you'll train them for free for this week. If they like it, they can continue next week. If they don't like it, all good. You're not losing a lot, but you're gaining a lot because you are creating a need. Now that they have experienced it, they don't want to lose it, and they're going to 9 out of 10 times sign up with you, and then they'll start paying you. Price and incentives, for instance. Back to the guest house example. They often have during winter, they've got winter specials. If you stay there during the week, from a Sunday evening, any evening except Fridays and Saturdays, obviously, there's special stay for 2 days, stay for 3, pay for 2 kind of thing. Kids stay free. They have all kinds of incentives to sell that particular service to somebody. Traveling, for instance, if you book a ticket on a plane for yourself and your family, kids under 12 don't have to pay. They still occupy a seat, but basically, in effect, you're getting it for nothing because it would have been somebody else's seat if they paid for it. For services, you have to prepare yourself in the form of staff that provide the service. You must know that you can sometimes be required during peak demand periods to increase your staff temporarily for a certain period of time to offer that service. Maybe get an extra, maybe get a locum in, finally a med student to assist you with certain tasks. If you're a doctor, dentist assistant, for instance, get an extra hairdresser in just to help you during peak hours, peak times, for instance. Then also ensure that that your service that you offer is always offered at a quality or at such a quality that the customer wants to come back. The customer actually cannot wait to come back. It's possible to do that because if your attitude is to treat the customer, if it's the first one or the 1,000th one or the millionth customer that visits you, if you treat every single one as if they were the first customer for your business. I can remember when I opened my first business, that first customer, I tell you what, I was so excited to see that first customer because that means that somebody has reacted to your advertisements, that somebody's interested in the service that you offer. And then it grows and it grows and it grows, and you become so absorbed in doing what you're doing that you forget sometimes that that excitement that you had when you had your first customer. Now that excitement you have to keep for as long as possible, and you never have to, and you never should forget how you felt about that first customer, because your 1,000th customer, your 5,000th customer, your 10,000th customer, your millionth customer must still feel that when they experience your service as if they are the first one. Chapter 14 deals specifically with selling in business markets, for instance. Now, business markets like selling services as opposed to selling products. is not necessarily different. The steps in the selling process are not necessarily different. As a matter of fact, I haven't even included the steps in the selling cycle in chapter 14 as part of the revision, because they're exactly the same as selling a product to a consumer. Selling to a business or selling to consumer, it's going through the same process. You are prospecting and you have to close the sale and you have to follow up. You have to follow the same steps in the selling cycle. I've not included that. It's in your original slides, but I haven't included that in these ones because they are the same. There are a few unique differences between selling products to a business client and selling products just to an individual consumer. Right, let's firstly differentiate between the two. When you are selling to an individual consumer, you have much you have less convincing often to do, because the customer is usually the one who's going to make the decision. The individual consumer who's looking to buy a watch is not going to send somebody else to the shop to buy the watch for them. They're going to be there themselves. They will be in a position of authority to make the final decision. They will be in a position to pay for that transaction. Okay, so not that it's different with businesses, but with businesses, there are more than one individual involved in the final decision-making process. It's slightly more complex, therefore you'll find that the marketing channels are shorter. You have to work much harder and longer to finalize a transaction because of the complexity and because of the nature and the size of the transaction, and because more people are involved in the process of making or finalizing that transaction. When you are selling selling to business markets, you have to understand that there are three reasons why customers in a business market want to do business. They want to do business because they want to obtain raw materials so they can manufacture that and produce a new product that they can offer as a service or a good. They can also just act as a middleman, where they basically, like a wholesaler, for instance, receive the product and distribute it to the consumer. So the consumer doesn't buy directly from the manufacturer, or they buy products or equipment that's necessary for them to fulfill their function and operate their business. I've used the example before, I'm going to use the example again. For Stadio to be able to offer the services that we offer students, we have to ensure that there's a building. The building is equipped with desks, with chairs, with laptops or desktops, with internet accessibility, with a library, with books and stuff. Everything that comes with the service of offering you a tertiary education. What's different between a business market and a consumer market? Usually, geographical location. Consumers are all over. There's a consumer in every little town in South Africa. There's not necessarily a specific business in every location in South Africa. There are also smaller numbers of customers. There's almost 60 million people living in South Africa. There are definitely not 60 million businesses in South Africa. So there are a smaller number of businesses. So from a selling point of view, you've got less customers and potential customers. Although new businesses open every day, every month, every week, the numbers of customers or potential customers are much smaller than in the consumer market. They do, however, have a larger buying capacity. Although there's a smaller number of potential business clients. When they buy in large quantities. They are very professional. They have a team of people involved in making the final decision. Very often, they're looking for specific tailor-made products, very complex products. You therefore have to sometimes customize specific equipment or products to satisfy a customer's need. And there will be wide fluctuations in demands because the products that they purchase in a business market is very often durable and will last for a longer period of time, and therefore has to be replaced in over a longer period of time. Let's say, for instance, the example that I may have used before. When Virgin Active took over Health and Racket in South Africa in the early 2000s, Richard Branson from Virgin said, "I'm not in the gym business. I'm not in the property business. I want to own the building. I don't want to own treadmills. I don't want to own gym equipment. That's what I'm providing a service. My service is that I provide a facility where people can actually socially engage and can train and get fit. So I'm not going to buy 15 treadmills. I'm not going to buy all the stationary bikes and everything. I'd much rather rent it. So go to the supplier." And he engaged in 36 months agreements with the supplier because he wanted to equip his facilities with machinery that is most current. So after 3 years, when that treadmill is still good for another 5 or 6 years, he upgrades it. In the process, it also created the second-hand market, or like in any other industry, for instance. That particular machine is still good to go for another 100,000 kilometers. They basically just quickly service the motor, put a new belt on, and the treadmill is fine. And now somebody who has a smaller gym around the corner or wants to open a small little business just for 100 or 200 clients, for instance, they don't want to go the Health and Racket to the Virgin Active route or Planet Fitness route or any of those big corporate gyms. They just want to service a small community. They don't have 85,000 Rand to pay for a treadmill, but they can have a second-hand one, which is just as good as the other one, for 25K, for instance. So it also created a different market, and it sort of supported the smaller exercise facility environment as well. We're almost done for the first session today. Hang in there, we're almost done. Hang in there, we're almost done. Business markets, sales force will need to consider the following factors. They've got to be doing a considerable amount of homework on their customers, without a doubt, because there's so much more that goes into the planning here and finding especially detail about what the company does, what the history is, what the buying patterns are. Are they a seasonal business? Are they going to buy with you regularly every year? Can you expect them to buy every 3 years based on the nature of their business? In other words, understanding their specific needs and then working together as a team. And your main purpose with engaging in business, selling in the business market, is to establish long-term relationships. So you're going to invest a lot of time and effort initially in your customer before the transaction is done, because you know when that transaction actually happens, it's going to be one that will give you repeat business more than you can handle for a very good time. And that's what most businesses want, because you don't feel that you have to start from scratch every month, because you have customers that you can rely on, that you know will purchase from you. Because personal selling in business markets are more expensive, you have to be a bit more patient, and you have to be very clear in your communication. You do not expect to make a sale with every time you make a call or a visit to a customer. As I said, yeah, you have to sometimes be very, very patient because, especially when the need of the customer has been established and you are in the process of creating a product that is satisfy a customized product that would satisfy their particular needs. It's worth it in the long run, as we've concluded on a few occasions already today. But it is very important that you remain patient, because the rewards are going to be great. Right, to finish off our first session this morning, business customers are more involved in the process. That might not be the same person every time. It might be somebody from a different department in a business. Very often, it's technically very qualified individuals who are involved in this process. And therefore, as I said, it's important to understand that the success in selling in business markets rely very much on teamwork. How well you can work together as a sales team, everybody performing different functions, because some people might be better with admin, some people might be better making phone calls, some people might be better doing presentations, some people might be better in following up with customers, and similarly working together with the potential buyers team. Some people are very good in networking and relationship building. Those are the ones that are important, and often in cases like in business markets, transactions in the business markets, we have key account managers, almost like a conductor for orchestra, who basically manage a group of experts, and ensure that everything, it's not up to one person to make it work. It's collective effort of a number of team members. This is it for the first period today. When we return, we're almost done with this chapter. When we return, we look at different types of customers and different buyers. And then we'll finish off with chapter 15, which is quite short and sweet, about the information communication technology and all the apps and tools that's available to a salesperson, the modern day salesperson. Everybody good? Any questions, anybody? Are we all fine? Lawanda, you good? Mutlachu, you good as well?
All good, sir. All good.
All right. Thanks very much for the first session. I'll chat to you guys again 20 past 10, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, sir.
Good. Enjoy the rest of the morning. We'll chat again 20 past 10 in the fourth period.